On Monday, Nigerians gasped in horror as news broke of a 21-story building collapse in the highbrow area of Ikoyi in Lagos State. Still under construction, it was the largest building in the country to crumble under the weight of poor building materials and lax enforcement of the applicable building code for multi-story buildings. The unfortunate incident has resulted in the death of 19 persons, even as rescue workers continue to work round the clock to rescue many more still trapped in the rubble. A visibly angered Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu, who visited the site in the wee hours of this morning, has already suspended Anwuli Okeke, General Manager of the Lagos State Building Control Agency, and launched an independent panel of inquiry to get to the root of the disaster. But will these measures be sufficient to stem future incidents of building failures in Lagos and other parts of the country? To answer this question, we are now being joined by Dr. Anwuli Okeke and Anwuli Okeke. Dr. Anwuli Okeke is an architect, lawyer, author, and former Lagos State Commissioner for Housing, while Ms. Okeke is a lawyer and CEO of Mason Hills Properties, a real estate firm that specializes in buying, selling, and marketing luxury properties. They will also be speaking to us about the legal remedies available to the families of the victims and investors who bought flats in the Ikoyi building. Good morning, and thank you for joining us. Well,
right, we'll definitely be delving into more of those reasons with Dr. Anwuli Okeke, but I'd like to bring you in, Anwuli Okeke. Thank you for joining us this morning. But let's talk about the consequences.
Thank you so much for having me.
The consequences, the ramifications of this disaster that has happened. I mean, we know that saying, safe as houses, where people are supposed to feel safe in their own homes. And then another meaning of that expression is that property is supposed to be a safe investment. What do we say about incidents like this that happen? Do you have any advice for would-be investors, your clients, or people who have invested in this property? While we're talking about the tragedy of the loss of 22 lives, which have been confirmed, sadly, have been lost in this disaster, we also are discussing the consequences to people who have invested and what should be done going forward. What do you have to say about that?
Well, thank you very much for having me. And I just want to use this opportunity to extend my deepest condolences to the families that are affected by this unfortunate tragedy. You see, in cases of building collapses, it's a very complex situation. It's a very complex issue. And to be very honest, in order to determine exactly what has caused collapse would require a thorough investigation to be carried out. And that's what we have seen that the Lagos State government is doing. And we commend the efforts of the first responders in moving swiftly and ensuring that, people are being rescued. And even up till now, there is still continuous effort to ensure that more people are rescued. We know that this is going to have a huge impact on the real estate industry, and it's definitely going to cause buyer bias. And a lot of people are going to be a little bit more skeptical into buying into tall-rise buildings. But the thing is that people that hire professionals, agencies like our firm that do the preliminary work, that go to these developers and ask for these tests and ask for their approvals and ask for their permits, what has been done, what has not been done, would ensure that buyers don't find themselves in situations like this. So we go ahead of the buyer even before they ask these questions, and we ensure that the appropriate permits are the appropriate permits have been gotten, and the things that are supposed to be done are already in place to ensure that the buyer makes an informed decision and ultimately that the quality and safety of the building is guaranteed.
Well, Anwuli, let me come to you very quickly. Tundu already raised the question about what remedies are available, but let's break that down in clear, specific terms. Now, the persons who already made deposits for those apartments, and some of them fully paid up, what now happens to them? Would the company be under strict obligation to make refunds, or this is a case of an investment gone bad? And if so, can they sue? What options are available to them? Then secondly, the families of the
Right.
affected persons, can they also ask for some kind of, compensation, restitution? Can they also go to court? Since the company behind that building has, a responsibility to ensure a duty of care and to deliver to both investors and ensure that the building they were putting up does not result in this kind of tragedy.
Okay. So I'll take your question one at a time. But I do believe that it is very premature at this stage for us to go into the talk about compensation without us getting the full fact. The investigation is currently ongoing. And until we have the full fact as to why this building collapsed and the parties involved, I mean, there could be multiple parties that are culpable in this situation, but we must wait. We must be patient. I know that a lot of people are outraged. A lot of people want answers. More than anything, the victims do deserve some compensation, but they also deserve the truth. They want to know why this has happened and what the government is doing to ensure that it does not occur again. So it's important that we wait. I know the emotions are flying, but we should wait and be patient for the government to conclude their investigation before we can go into the case of who is liable and what compensation should be paid out. But I cannot stress enough the importance of having a real estate agent. I'm not just talking about the agents that are just interested in taking their commission, doing the introductions and walking away. I'm talking about the agents that understand the principles of agency, that are with the client from the moment they express interest till the point that the close, and even sometimes in our case, even after the close, providing after sales services as well. So it is very important that the agents are not bypassed because we do the preliminary work. We ask the questions that a buyer could walk into a building and not even know the right questions to ask, the right documents to request for. And these high-rise buildings are very, very volatile. There's a lot of tests go into them. That's why you see that it takes a couple of years sometimes before they mobilize into site. The structural valuations have to be done. The soil tests will have to be done in order to determine whether piling should be done. So many things go into the planning of these high-rise buildings. So it is very important that people consult the services of professionals who have the adequate knowledge that can provide adequate advice as well to ensure that the quality and the safety of the development is guaranteed and that your investment is protected.
Let me bring Anwuli into this conversation. Anwuli, as a real estate person yourself, you sell most of these properties. Question is, where do we draw the line between cost and big, chunky profits and quality of building? Because, the reason you sell real estate is because you want to make profit. Where do we draw that line? Because the problem here is a lot of people want to make humongous profit in real estate. And they want to tell their inspirational stories on Instagram. But the question is, where do you draw the line with safety?
Thank you very much for your question. And honestly, in a nutshell, what I can say is that quality costs money. And people need to understand that, again, what Mr. Coker said is very correct. You need to ensure that, you're hiring the right people, you're investing in the right development. You understand? Like you need to ensure that, your safety is not compromised no matter what. So you see a lot of developers that cut corners, but there is a vast majority of developers out there that have integrity, that do not compromise on safety, that ensure that these things are at the forefront of all their development. So not all developers are out there to just make money. It's a trust relationship between a buyer and a contractor, for example. It's the same way you said that you go into the hospital for a surgery and you're entrusting your life to the doctor because you believe that they know what they're doing and hoping, obviously, that you do not die. That's the same way that these buyers entrust their safety to these developers. And a lot of developers out there honestly do take their time and ensure that, safety is at the forefront and at the paramount of their development. So it would be really unfair to, for buyers to become skeptical and think that all developers cut corners in order to gain maximum profit. That is absolutely not the case. we sell these buildings and we know the things that we request to see and the things that we request to ask to ensure that the request to see and to ensure that, the buyers are making appropriate investments and their investments are being protected, and that, the quality and safety of the building is not compromised at all, and that their safety is
So the issue about the state government lacking the capacity addresses a message I just got rather panicked, that there's 2 other disasters waiting to happen, which I won't just blindly name, obviously, because the developer is going beyond the scope of what has been approved. So that, I hope, addresses that for that viewer. But I have a question for you both, and I'll start with Anwuli. What is the direct impact of this disaster on the property market in Lagos?
Thank you again. Like I said before, this is going to have a huge impact on the industry. There are a lot of high-rise buildings that are currently coming up. And truly speaking, a lot of people are going to be skeptical. I mean, right now, there are obviously rigorous requirements that have to be put in place before final building approvals are gotten. But we expect that obviously right now the government will tighten up their belts and even be more strict with what is required before giving approvals to high-rise buildings like that to be constructed.
But Anwuli, I want to come to you. Anwuli, do you think this is the problem? That the real estate sector in Nigeria now houses a lot of, I don't want to use the word, the C word, but houses every Tom, Dick, and Harry. Everybody you see by the roadside that can speak.
Sorry, I didn't hear your question.
Can you hear me, Anwuli?
Quacks.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. It's
Good.
a little bit faint.
I said, do you
Yes.
think the problem is the fact that the real estate industry now has got a lot of C word people? I don't want to use the complete C word. The fact that everybody that can speak or pitch some house to anybody gets into the real estate market with no proper training. Anybody calls themselves a developer today, as long as you have money or have people to support you. So there have been calls for regulations of developers and even real estate salespeople that know next to nothing about the business. Do you think that's the crux of the problem? That's the crux of the matter?
I don't think she heard you.
I'm sorry, I didn't get the question.
Anwuli, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Please, can
you hear me? The question is, do you think there are a lot more, I'll use the C word now, charlatans in this business? Do you think that's the problem? Everybody gets into real estate. For the life of me, almost everybody you see is a real estate developer or a real estate salesman on the streets of Lagos. Do you think that's where the problem lies?
Yes, I honestly, I don't think that's the exact problem, but honestly, it comes back to what Mr. Coker was saying. You need to hire competent professionals. You need to check the background of these professionals, from the architects to the engineers, to the plumbers, to who the contractors are, who the developers are. These things are very vital and very key. They're very, very important in ensuring that you do not fall into the hands of what I say, quack developers. But it's very necessary that, we shortlist and cut down on the number of people that we entrust with our lives, because honestly, trusting people with your lives. The same way that there are so many, agents and so many people that are not competent in doing what they're supposed to do. The fact that you can build a 2-story building is not the same as building a 21-story building. So care needs to be taken to ensure that the people that you're entrusting your money to, entrusting your lives to, are competent enough to deliver on what they're promising to deliver.
Well, thank you very much, Anwuli, for joining us. But before we go, and thank you also, Anwuli Okeke, if you're still.